Hey guys, hey Mark, hey Peter, hey Stuart, hey Paul. G'day. Um, yeah, it's 8 o'clock on Wednesday. Been home half hour maybe. I've had a busy day. Don't know if I've done much here since last time you were here. I honestly don't. I'm pretty confident I haven't done very much at all. Journeyman Randy, g'day. Don't think I've done very much at all, to be honest. I've been away for the weekend. We had Easter. Hope everyone had an awesome Easter. I did, I think. Um, Ended up down at Dan's shed for a week. Well, more or less a week, 5 days, which was really awesome. It was pretty good actually. And yeah, got a bit done. I don't know if you'd call it entirely productive, but we got a bit done. I'm still nursing this arm. More about that in a minute. But we didn't sort of sit around and do nothing, I don't think, too much. Didn't get drunk, no. I'm not a get drunking sort of person, really, to be honest. Probably should have, but I never. What do we do? He's got a Ferguson 28 with an engine problem of some sort. Any Ferguson 28 experts, get in touch with Dan Shed. Hit him up because stuffed if I know what's wrong with it. Won't idle with the choke in. That's basically what it is. It won't run with the choke in. Hey David. Why won't it run with the choke in? No idea. Been through everything. It idles beautifully with the choke out. Runs a bit rich, but it idles and runs, drives around nice and smooth even. Push the choke in and installed. And it's using a lot of fuel. But anyway, can't get to the bottom of that, but we did spend some time looking at it. We pulled the manifold off again and the carby off again and put different ones on, and still not. There's no blockage in the carby. It's been cleaned about 4 times in the last month, like comprehensively. It's sucking air somewhere, but I've got absolutely no idea where. Sorry, no idea. And neither does he. So someone will know. Might have to hit up Lance at Bundy Bear Shed. I can't find a blockage. Everything in the carby looks like it's pretty good. What else we do? Oh, we put some cladding back on the. £10 from Easter isn't a bad effort. I think I lost £10 probably for Easter, but it didn't do very much. I didn't eat very much. It's good. Hole in a hose or a pipe. Can't find it. We've blocked up the breather pipe. We can't find it anything anywhere. Blockage or air hole. Can't find anything. It's sucking air somewhere. It could be under the manifold, but it's a long shot. Anyway, put the cladding back on the Marshall Portable. Most of it, some of it, some more of it. It's looking really good. Looks really good with the cladding on it. So that was a job that needed to be done, and we spent a day doing that, probably not even. It's good to get that sort of well on the way again. Put the big end back in the roller. Took some footage on video, and I've got a video to edit up and post at some point in the next few days. Hasn't happened yet, but I do have enough video there to make something, I think. Ended up shortening up the big end about 15 thou, something like that. So it's only got about 10 thou slop in it now, which is probably better than it was. And put it all back together and cleaned everything up and put wicks in the oiler, which it never had, and put it back together with the clean oilways and things. And I think it's probably going to be all right. Doesn't hit either end of the cylinder block, so that's a good thing always. And rust knocks, good day. So there are things we've done. Did a little bit of paint work on the Robertson saw bench too, but nothing serious, just some undercoat on some bits that were starting to go rusty. So it wasn't particularly productive when you look at it like that, but we got some things done. And had a few afternoon naps and stuff like that too, which I probably needed, to be honest. And then I slept in on Tuesday and I went with another mate and looked at a little Hercus, which is a copy of a South Bend, an early one, 1950, something like that was completely worn out. Never. So I went and had a look at that. Wanted too much for it. Well, maybe not, but they wanted a bit for it. And then come home. I had to pick up a lawn edger for mate Graham here, who's doing some machining work for me. Had to pick up a lawn edger in Tweed, which is about 2 hours, an hour south of here, hour and a half south of here, on the way through. And I did that with great difficulty, to be honest. It's a rotten place. Got lost fairly seriously. The all-rounder, I guess. G'day, good to see you. So that's how we got on. Got home last night fairly late. Went to work this morning, caught the train in and caught the train home, which is good. And do the same tomorrow, I guess. Given my notice, Dan, g'day. Given my notice on the storage locker, so that'll be no more after the end of this month, and it's paid up till then, so I'll be glad to get rid of that. Dan's busy trying to organise steam engines for the 2023 Glenray Timber Festival, which is on July the 29th at Glenray Recreational Ground. If you're in northern New South Wales at any point during that weekend, you should really try and make the Glenray Timber Festival. Come and say hello. There you go. There will be steam engines. There we go. Don't know what the latest update is. I missed your phone call, Dan. Sorry about that. I was talking, which doesn't seem like... yeah, better you than me trying to organise that, but hopefully there's steam engines. Looks like all going good, he says, so there's going to be steam engines. So come to Glenray Timber Festival, 29th of July. You've got a little bit of time to work it out and organise a camping trip. There's a campground there. Pretty good. They have market stalls, pony rides. You could go for a pony ride. They have a wood shop with some pretty awful timber, really. There's some pretty slow wood shop chimes. Got some good food trucks. They have a petting zoo. You can go and pet a sheep. They have workshops, blacksmiths, working dogs, steam engines, vintage machinery. They have cultural events. All that stuff. So that sounds like fun, and we're getting there, and hopefully the roller will be there. Sort of the Marshall Portable will be there because Dan's on top of that, and he's getting it all back together, and it's looking amazing. It really is looking good, and I'm excited about him for that. And gotta bite my tongue on that, Stuart. And the roller should be there, maybe, depending on how we go. Drain cocks are things we're going to fix before then, so it means a trip to the foundry before then. Bit excited about that. Anyway, this next month's going to be pretty hectic here with work and trying to get things done and get things organised, ready for that. There are some things that were on the bench last week that have been packed up. Like, I put all those castings in that box. There you go. I was pretty impressed about that. That was a few minutes. Very excellent, purposeful work done. I still got 2 holes marked here for a vise, but I haven't actually put the vise on yet. The vise is still down there on the floor. What else? Don't know if there's much else that's happening here. As far as packing stuff up, we still haven't put the top back on the milling machine with the electric motor and wired it back up. I guess that will happen at some point one night this week. And then the milling machine needs some skates to slide in to the other room. It's still outside, and I think it probably got wet during some light rain, but a bit blustery. But Joe went out and oiled it up for me, so I'm pretty happy about that. I haven't had a look since. Yeah, there's plenty to do, and not really enough time to do it. Hey, Brendan. So, what else? Gosh, we're only 13 minutes in, and I haven't really done a whole lot. We haven't really talked about much. There isn't very much to talk about, to be honest. All this stuff on the bench, which is junk, really. This was on the send deck. I could probably toss that out. Job's done. Got a Bondus Allen key. I think it's a Bondus. No, it's not. It's a cheap job that a size 8mm Allen key that must have come with something. It's quite a good Allen key, but doesn't fit any of my sets. I've got a pair of belly pinchers. Look at that. Anyone who's not familiar with that particular nomenclature for straight tin snips probably needs to use them for half a day. That's what they are. They're a smaller set of belly pinchers. It's the correct term, because that's what they do when you're cutting something with it and you're not paying full attention. Miserable things, but good pair of snips. Could put that away. We have here a very useless pair, and I'm going to say that with utter respect because they come from Keith Fenner, I think. Very useless pair of pliers that don't stay swung over, they just slip through. Don't know if they're much good for anything. I nearly tossed them out too. It'd be nice 8-inch Barco. Is it 8? Is that an 8 or 6? Good question. 8-inch Barco, number 31, made in Sweden, V steel. Barco, Sweden, patent. Shifter with a fishtail on it. There you go. No prizes, but everyone can guess what that is. I know what that one is. That does. Right, it's got a handle in the middle. It's square on one end and it's kind of trapezoid on another end, or it should be. It's got one trapezoidal side and the other three are square on this one. It's hard. So there we go. One of those. I'll let you guess what that is. There's a casting in a small bag that come from the UK, which I haven't yet machined, which is for the Stuart Progress engine. It's the one that got messed up. Stuart are good because if you get a casting with problems, and I did get a casting with some serious problems, they tend to just send you a new one. It's one of the good reasons to buy a Stuart model. You can guess what it is, and it's not a scraper. It's a fairly useful tool that I probably used to use a lot more often than I do now, but it's because I don't do much of what it. There you go. It's a box of Platypus Finest Blued Cut Tacks. If you're putting toe protectors on your boots, life isn't the same without them. So, yep, you need those. Anyone who wears toe protectors is either a hipster or an idiot. Yeah, Dan, get onto them and fit that fix, because they will just replace it. This Barocca packet. What do you reckon's in there? 5-sided brooches for cock repair. Bushing brooches. Packet of. Somewhat rusty. Probably okay. And let's make it easy for you guys. This one and this one are very similar uses. They're part of the same process. There's a drill. You need to put the drill away. You need to drill 2 holes in this bench and put the vise on first. There's a centre drill that's broken on one end. Make a nice little boring bar or chamfer tool out the other end without any problems at all when you're feeling like it. Yeah, it's definitely for clock repair, but which part? What is it? There's a film container, we could chuck that out. Here's a foam roller. It's very useful for putting blue on a surface plate for scraping. 2 dividers out of a plastic container, we could put them away somewhere. A parting off block. With no parting off block, we could probably toss that too. An assortment of springs and old belts and things. Could probably put that stuff away too. toss it. This one, oh, there's some useful stuff in this one. Oops. What do we got here? Don't know if we can even see that. That looks like a penny. 1 penny from USA. There you go. Probably where I tossed my loose change last time I come back. It's another penny. There's this. Hey, Raymond. Three pennies. 4 pennies. A 5-cent piece. Probably worth about the same as 4 pennies. It's a brass plug. It's worth having. What else is in here? Starrett Scriber. Probably should put that somewhere safe. You never know what you're going to find. What we have here is a drill bit. We can put all this stuff away and get rid of the stuff that we don't need. Just another brass fitting. It's a 9-lock nut. I've got a box of 9-lock nuts. We could put them away. There's a dime. There you go. That one's 10 cents and that one's 5 cents Australian. So there's a few 9-locks in here. There's a Kratex point. Sorry guys, I'm just going. A couple of taps. Why do I even have this junk in here? Bit of brass stock. A bit of steel stock. Probably just toss all this stuff out. Sorry about the noise. But not feeling like any of that's anything. There's another couple of drill bits in there. Some little wood screws. Couple of, yeah, all sorts of stuff in there. There's a nice little knurled knob that's off a spacer, a locking spacer for brass engraving letters, if you want to know what that is. On a roll, a lot of good stuff, none of which is of any use. Box of matches. It's a bit of soft solder, electrical solder, I reckon. Some spare piston rings for the Stewart, which probably I should keep because one day I might get actually into making that. Get it going again. There's 2 screws in a plastic bag and an M4 socket head cap screw. So, the trouble is with moving is that all this junk gets stacked in here and none of it's of particular use, but you've got to go through it and pick out the stuff that's any good. Didn't find the piece of steel from a tool making project. I was going to put it aside if I did. I had every thought about it, but it hasn't happened. Nope. We've got here a bit of stainless steel flat, which I know what that's for. Keep that. Got a pencil we can put with all these other pencils and put them away in the other room. There's a 3D print from a forgotten project with 2 screws screwed in it that can be screwed out and put away and then thrown in the bin. And there's some springs that could go in the spring assortment. What's that down there? Something fell out. There we go. I know what that is. We're not getting any focus there at all. Sorry, guys. I've got the top out of a toolbox empty. I could put some things away. I'll put that down here for organisational purposes. We've got one of them, which is a steel ball with a 1.6 hole in it, or a 16 gauge hole, I think. 1.6. I think it's metric surgical steel. It's off the end of a piercing. There you go. So, there you go. A lot of junk. I found a couple heap of Sharpies. A lot of junk, but there's some actual clear space there, sort of. Anyway, what's everyone else up to? What exciting things are happening? Looks like Rastanox is still messing around with his mill, getting it going. It's an awesome series to watch. Stephen Lang. What did we see from Stephen Lang recently? Probably not very much. He's probably busy doing real work. Did we see a video from Bill? A video about files. That's right. Was there one since then? Didn't see one from Dan Shed. What's the bottle for? Very good question. This is a project that Dad started years ago. This is the OB Bolton 5-inch boiler. Pre-Australian design rules and the Australian Miniature Boiler Code. It's not a bad little boiler. It's had a bit of a knockabout in transport since I brought it up from Dad's and where it's been stored. And if we look at the bottom, this is all a bit dented, so I'm going to have to make another piece of wood nice and round, machine a bit of plywood and hammer in there to flatten it all out before we start. But there's this water tube, or a fire tube boiler, centre flue there. It's have a grate and a firebox around and everything on it. There's a fair bit of copper in it. It seems a pity to not finish it off. It needs a fire hole door on here. It's got gauge glass fittings on here and a blow down here. I think pressure gauge on one of these and a pump filler here. Rough window's no good, Stephen. I hope you're doing okay. It's good to see you. So this has cast iron top on it, smoke box top. Now Dad made this, which is sort of a superheater, and it's not much good. Which goes on here like this. I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can. Should have moved the light over here, to be honest. We're going to have a good look at this. We can move the stuff here. Sorry. Having a bit of a shuffle. We've got stuff here like this little vise that's not much good for anything, but we have it. It's useful for some things, but a good vise on the bench is much better. And another box full of assorted small pieces, some of which mean something and belong to things, and the rest which needs tossing out. We have a drill which needs somewhere to hang up, to be honest. That's what that needs. But if we put it in here, Let's fix that problem. I've got a set of go no-go gauges, which probably I'm going to advertise and sell. Give away to a good home. I've got a go no-go gauge, test gauge for this thrust and preload bearing on the spindle of the launch. So that's what that is. I'm loath to sort of throw that out, to be honest. Got a couple of wooden plane handles. I've got a small wooden box with a watch movement in it. I've got what looks like is probably a dial indicator mechanism. Got the end off a F clamp. And what it looks like is a bit of stock. Anyway, let's come over here and look at this boiler. That's what we're going to do. Sorry guys, all over the show still. Woohoo, look at that. Now, this is what sort of we were messing around with. It's not ideal, and didn't know very much at that point. I was going to put a manifold on this side screwed out. I don't like it much, to be honest. If we do something like this, and we probably won't superheat it, might just run a pipe around here in a D and out the hole and silver solder it in here. Put a manifold on here with a pressure valve or a safety valve on one each side. It's got a cast iron grate, so it's solid fuel fired. And it's probably not a bad boiler. I think it tested up pretty good when we did it, but it probably wouldn't hurt to do it again. And it's dead silver soldering job. It's got a pretty ordinary castellated steam down the outside. I don't know if you can see that. You probably can now. Oh crap. That seam probably doesn't come up the boiler code nowadays. Before that it was more than acceptable. It's probably not a bad seam and it probably does the job. For this it'll probably be okay because I don't reckon this will ever get fired in an event or in public, but we'll see how we go. So that's the boiler. Thanks for asking. I don't think that this pipe on top will be a feature of it. And there's a lid and there must be a chimney on it. No, it does not. Go away. I think that this was probably part of it too. There you go. It was. Which is a chimney. There you go. Looks good with the chimney on it. So this was probably a pretty good fit for the chimney, I think. We could do with a couple of screws, press it in, a couple of screws on it. And I'm not sure it wants to be that long. I'm not sure about the flared top, but there we go. That's the boiler. I'm just going to put wooden cladding around it and a nice little door on it with a vent in it. And it needs some sort of blower, etc., etc. And a decent dryer or superheater or something in a manifold. I've got a couple of decent big safety valves to go on it too. Hi, Chirpy. So, in other news, the important part of the roller is still here in the workshop. We have that. John Fowler and Co. Leeds Limited, 16771, Leeds, England. I guess the the big game plan is to get this back on the roller on the outside of the cladding. A lot of work to get there, but that's where we'd like to be with that. I might get a coat of red paint at some point when I'm doing something and I can be bothered. They look like wooden plane parts to me. We could probably put the rest of these in a box with them. This is also one. So there we go. While we're on the subject of unusual things, anyone who knows what that is doing great too. Dan's finger hurts. Extract digit. We put this, not in exactly the same process, but it's very similar. It's the same industry, and it's also something that you can't really live without. So, if you know what that is, it's nothing to do with Dan's finger. No, it's not a hole punch. If you have a look at this, they're all different shapes. What do we got? And different sizes. This one doesn't look very much like any of the ends are broken. Could be wrong. You can't see anything really terribly broken with it. No markings on it though. Ah, David's very, very close. Very close. Chirpy's not far out, but he's in the wrong industry. This is a universal pocket watch key. Well, it's not really. It's a universal negative set. Positive set, negative set. Negative set watch case tool. It's for removing the crown from American pocket watches. Some interesting background, I guess, is probably required on American pocket watches. When you bought an American pocket watch, right? There's one here. Let's talk about this. Here's a little Waltham, which needs work, serious work. And I was looking through it thinking, yeah, that's not worth fixing, to be honest. But I might sell it. It's a little ladies' Waltham, a cocktail size Waltham. It's got a reasonable case on it. It's missing a minute hand. It's got a chip in this porcelain dial. And let's have a look at the back. It's quite an ornate case from, I reckon, the 1930s. It's silver. It's got a hallmark there, and a serial number, and some jeweller's marks, watchmaker's marks. What have we got here? We can see some actually see anything here. Yeah, there's all sorts of marks in there. If you have a look around the outside, you'll see jeweller's marks or repair marks. Don't actually mean anything to anyone except the jeweller, so you can't decipher them. Independent of anyone's belief, they don't mean anything except to someone's account book. It's got a false cover on here. That one lifts too. And we've got a fairly nice Waltham 7 jewel movement I think it's a 7 jewel, yeah, with a broken balance. Some really nice engraving on it, and it's German silver rather than brass, so it's quite nice. It says on there, what does it say? American Waltham Watch Company. Serial number 11647125, if anyone wants to look that up. It's not a difficult thing to find on the internet. But when you bought a watch, say any watch, an American pocket watch and a case, you went to the jeweler and you thought, well, I'm a travelling salesman, I want something that looks really blingy on the outside and is flash, or I'm a party goer or wants a nice watch to wear out. I want something that's a bit flash and fits everything and looks like my style. But I don't really want to spend a fortune on a mechanism, so I only want a cheap mechanism, like this 7 jewel one. It looks flash inside and it makes me feel like I've got a good watch, but it's only a 7 jewel. And it probably doesn't keep particularly, well, it keeps a reasonable time. You won't be late too many times in the day. And it's quite well made. It's not a bad watch. It's adjusted. It's all right. But if, for example, you were a railway conductor or a signalman, you would want a different sort of watch. You'd want a high grade or a decent mechanism, like a good mechanism, and you'd want a cheap, decent steel case that's going to stand being run over and dropped and so forth, etc. It's so you, whatever you do or the person you are means that your watch needs change. And American watches were sold, I guess you bought the mechanism and you bought the case and the jeweler put them together. And they're quite simple to put together. You just click this out into the out position, which is basically the set position. Or it's not the set position, it's the release position. And this mechanism just comes out through the front. And you can put anyone in. So if you wanted a nice 27 jewel Hamilton or Ball mechanism that was going to keep time in 6 positions and adjusted for temperature, etc., 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 you could probably get one that would go in this case for a price. So when you open a case, you're never quite sure which mechanism you're going to see inside it. Now, what this tool does, is that when you take this apart, if you want to take this mechanism out in here to make the stem fit a different brand of mechanism, then that's the tool to do it with. It unscrews, and whichever fitting actually fits inside under the crown. So that's what that does. Anyway, these are some very useful or not so very useful. That was a figure of speech there. If you leave your watch under the train, it's your own stupid fault. But that's some useful or not so useful information about American watches. English watches were sold a bit different because English watches are made basically to fit whatever parts. So to a certain extent, yes, you could change the mechanism in the watch, but it was screwed in usually, and you needed a little bit of fineness. You had to get a few things right before you could just change them over. And that's the same with all English watch parts. If you've got an English watch that needs repair and you've got 2 English watches and you think there's enough good bits in one to make the other, you're in for a particularly embarrassing shock because they won't be. Oh, hello, Stefan. Welcome back. It's so good to see you. I hope you had an amazing holiday. I hope it was everything you wanted to. I hope you didn't get... I hope you're not in a family way or anything because of it. But hope you had fun. It looked good, the few pictures that we did see. Hey, Kevin, too. So that's what that tool does. This box here is full of watchmaking tools of varying usefulness. Most of which are more varying than useful. This is probably, I would say, by the look of it, an apprentice project. Could be, because it made similar tools like this. Probably not any better or any nicer, or probably a lot worse. Now, this machine is going to run out of power. I should go and get the plug and plug it in, but I'm not sure how productive we are. And I think when it does run out, we're just going to say it's the end of the stream, to be honest. This is a mainspring gauge. There you go. You sit the mainspring barrel in one of these holes, and that tells you, probably with some sort of accuracy or not, what size spring you should buy for that particular barrel. So that's what that is. Pretty useless, to be honest, in this day and age. Here's another one. These were this is a bought one. It says it's made by the Martin Corporation in France. And it's also got a width gauge as well, so that gives you two different sizes. With that one, you can see how wide it is from which one of these grooves it fits in, probably. Then you buy it and discover it doesn't fit at all. There seems to be a lot of these sort of things. Swiss lever springs. This one. It's another one, see? This is actually in Swiss inches, which is a whole other subject, but that one looks like it's probably, it's the number 1, 2, 3, 5. It's in that standard system. I'm not sure about the use for that. There's things like this, right? 1 gross of ruby plate jewels for the KK system. Hole separators, diameter disorders for braceless watches. This assortment contains 1 KK system jewel setter, made in Switzerland. The KK system jewel set is missing, and there are some left in the little test tube vials. We've still got a paste board in there that says the ruby plate jewels in 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and so on sizes. So if you're doing up pocket watches, they're things that are useful to have. I'm not doing those sort of things anymore. What are Swiss inches? You poor sod. Do I have enough battery left on this device to actually do that? It's 1/12 of Charlemagne's foot. There you go. That's the short answer. The Emperor. I think how the story goes, and it's probably a bit sketchy at this point, but Charlemagne sent these people out with a white flag called the Flag of Truce, which was a new thing back then. and a measuring tape or a heap of sticks or a chain or something to measure the height of France from the top to the bottom in a way to make a new metric system. For all his life he did that, and then he died. And then in the end, because his wife was sort of doing a line or having an affair with some English Wessex king, she just threw in their system in the end, which was measure the length of the emperor's foot and divide it by 12, and that's what they ended up with for the next 1,000 years or however long it was. But Charlemagne's metric system, which was to divide the length, the height of France by 1,000,000, never really took off because they had too many wars in between, and none of them ever actually got to the point that that they had accurate measurement. That was it. And when she was, whichever queen she was, she became some queen of Wessex after her king died, the second husband. And while Charlemagne was lying with a toe tag on, they snuck in with a bit of paper and divided the length of his foot into 12 and made a decree about it. So that's how the Swiss inch come to bits. There you go. How it's all divided up are a bit sort of broad, but that's the general. It's worth some study if you want to look at it. It's a fairly interesting tale, but it might have been much more sensible, and they might have had much less cottage industry and much more industrial revolution on that side of the English Channel if Charlemagne had enough peaceful time and enough brave warriors with the flag of truce to actually measure and make a decent decimal system, but he never. So that idea had to wait for another 1,000 years, however long, to 800 years or something. Really good story. Well worth the rabbit hole dive. If you've got nothing to do one afternoon, just Google that. It's well worth it. But the French or the Swiss still use the stupid French inches or Swiss inches system in watch movements today. Can't actually buy a tool that measures it accurately. The only tool I have that probably measured it, it looks like this. Pretty useless, and that one's worn out. So that's a Ling gauge, Ligne, which is 1/12 of a Swiss inch, which is about 3 millimeters. 2.8 something millimeters is 1/12 of a Swiss inch, and that's divided up into 28 parts, which is because that's useful to have two that aren't sort of dividable by each other. No one thought of that. So lines are divided into 28. It's not a useful system. A bit like Fahrenheit, but with more spur of the moment sort of decisiveness and a little bit more romance, and not a whole lot of particular usefulness or care, because she was legging it off to England to marry the King of Wessex or whoever he was, one of the odd English kings from some small, hardly known vicinity. It wasn't Hadrian, it was one of them. It was one of the emperors or the rebel kings, and didn't particularly sort of care very much about the state she left France in, I guess. But that fixed the problem with the trying to find a metric system. Anyway, not probably a favourite subject, but it's quite a good story.